Hello, this is April with Inky Creations with April.com. Thanks for stopping by. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and click that notification bell so you know when my next video is. Today I'm going to make a couple holiday thank you cards for those gifts we all just received. I'm using several products from Kat Scrappiness. I am using the Falling Starlight Stencil. We're going to use that a couple different ways. The thanks word with shadow die, this nice wreath set, and this fun Christmas foliage set. So we're going to use the stencil two different ways to create two different backgrounds with a bunch of shine. So we're going to start by pulling the stencil out and grabbing a piece of 110-pound cardstock here, and I am just holding it in place with some magnets. I am working on a Glass Board Studios craft mat in true white. It is magnetized, so love it that I can hold my stencils in place. I grabbed some Glitz glitter gel in red velvet and using a palette knife, mixing that up, and then I'm just using my palette knife to spread the glitter gel over my stencil. Make sure that you press and work that gel down into these small openings on this stencil of these little stars. So they are in a couple different sizes, and you want to make sure you get that gel in there and get the whole image covered up. So I am just working that in and then going to scrape off the extra here and put that back in the container so I can use it again. I've almost used this whole container of gel. I'm going to put some press and seal on top and tighten that lid nice and tight. I do take the stencil and the palette knife to my sink that's next door to my craft room, and I do wash those with some mild soap and some warm water to get all that gel off. That gel with the glitter in it can take a little bit of work to get it nice and clean. So make sure it's nice and clean. Now we're going to start our second background. And again, I'm just using some heavyweight 110-pound Nina cardstock here. Going to hold it in place, and I just grab some metallic gold ink pad that I have. I've had this pad for like 18 years. So I have a sponge round for this that I have taped to the bottom because this is really what I use it for. And I am just kind of using a twisting motion here to work that, that metallic gold pigment ink down into my stencil to make sure I have a complete coverage on the images that I'm stenciling. So I just find the little twisting motion when I'm doing it this way to work really well. So just going to work that down into all of my little pieces here. Make sure everything's nice and covered. And then I'm just going to take that little sponge off and tape it back to the back of my pad so I have it for next time. I just use painter's tape to hold it in place. I do have some baby wipe that I wipe my surface down with, and again I take and run that under some warm water with some mild soap. So I'm grabbing the thanks word with shadow die here, grabbing the shadow piece, and I took it to my Gemini Junior and cut two pieces out of some matte gold cardstock. Now I have my mini blossom out and some phone booth red cardstock from Spellbinders. And I'm just taking the word thanks and I'm going to run this through 6 times. I'm not going to make you watch me do that, but I just run it through 6 times. So I have 3 for each. Sorry, I do want to layer this up, so that's why I ran it through 6 times, and I did not want white or black underneath the red. So just going to use some liquid adhesive here. This is the Barely Arts glue, putting it on the back of my words and going to stack them up. Use my fingers to make sure they're nicely lined up, and then put something heavy on it while that glue starts to set. So I do that for both of my thanks, and Then I'm going to take and put some more liquid adhesive on that stacked die there and put it on my shadow piece. And these fit so nicely. Sometimes the words can get a little stretched and you kind of have to squish them back together. I don't find that with this die at all. Fits right on that shadow die so nicely. So I'm going to set those aside and let those dry while we start putting our cards together. So for our first card, we're going to do the Wreath Die, and I am going to cut it from 3 different cardstocks. I'm going to cut it from the matte gold, a piece of Rainforest, and a piece of Fern cardstock from Spellbinders. I'm going to take those over, run those through my Gemini Junior, and bring them back to my work surface. So here I have them. They're all cut, and they come apart really nicely. Going to pop out that center portion, and there's just 1 or 2 little pieces in there that you got to make sure you remove. But this die has a cute little stitch detail to it that I think adds a super fun little detail to it. And I'm going to end up cutting our background piece to match that cute little stitch detail. So I'm going to take these 3 and I'm going to layer them up. I just offset them a little bit, and you can see I'm kind of tucking the leaves down and up so that some of those darker green leaves are tucked below that gold. And I'm going to do the same for this lighter green color here. And this, I do adhere it with some adhesive here in a bit, but I just want to make sure that I like the way it looks and going to set that aside. So I'm grabbing that panel we did, a stitch rectangle die, going to run it through my Gemini Junior. And when I bring it back, I take a baby wipe and I clean off my plate that touched that gold metallic ink, because it takes a really long time to set if it's not embossed, and you don't want to ruin your next project when you run it through your die cut machine. So make sure to clean that plate off. Like I did, it's ready for next time. This has a cute little stitch detail that matches the stitch detailing on our wreath here. And I'm just making a few final adjustments. And then I do grab some foam squares to put on the back. And so I'm going to put a whole bunch of these smaller ones, and they hide really easy. And with the 3 layers, there's no way you're going to see even a bigger foam square I could have used. But I just use these smaller ones and tuck them all around. Gonna pull off those release papers that do tend to be all over my house. I just noticed them on my staircase. But gonna get those all taken and move those out of my work area and put this beautiful wreath right in the middle. I love how this turned out. I think it's so pretty. Now I do want to make sure that those 2 other layers are nice and secure, so I am just using a little liquid adhesive, and you can see I'm tucking it underneath the leaves from both colors of cardstock so that I know it's being held into place. It doesn't take a lot. If you have a strong liquid adhesive, it's going to hold, but make sure you put something heavy on it to hold those leaves in place while that glue sets. We're going to mount this to a top folding heavyweight card base. I buy mine pre-cut and pre-scored. This leaves a nice, very small edge around this background panel. And then all we have to do is to pop up our thanks die here. So we're going to put underneath the A and the N, we're going to put 2 layers of foam squares because there's quite a bit of dimension with this wreath. So we want to make sure it's supported really well. So I'm going to put 1 layer down, take those release papers off, and put another layer right on top of that so that it fits just perfectly right in the middle of our wreath. Now I didn't go all the way over onto the T and the H and the K and the S because that is going to be on top of our wreath, and I'm just going to put liquid adhesive in those areas to hold that into place on our wreath. So just squirt a little bit of glue on there and pop this right in the middle, and then again I'm going to put something heavy on that and let that glue set. So this here is my first card. I love the shine of that metallic gold ink and the shine in the wreath and behind that, thanks. So we have our Glitz glitter gel panel here that we did in the red, and I'm just going to cut a 1/4 inch off of each side. So I end up with a background panel being 4 by 5 1/4. So once I got that cut off, I am sorry, I'm kind of off screen there. I'm just trying to decide where I want that thanks. And I move it around a few times before I decide where I really want it to be. But so now we're going to grab that Christmas foliage, and I am again going to use the matte gold, the Rainforest, and the Fern cardstock. And I take that and I run those images through my Gemini Junior, and I cut several of each of those. Now what I don't show is how much I fiddled with where I want everything. So I'm going to start by putting my thanks on, and this was a big decision. Do I want it in the middle or do I want it down below? I did end up choosing to go down into the bottom third of this cardstock to really be able to showcase those beautiful red stars up above it. So I think it would look great either way, but I ended up putting it right here. So this, I cut it all out because you guys didn't want to watch me spend 20 minutes trying to decide how I want this little cluster of branches to look. I moved them around a lot, but this is what I ended up with, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I do trim off some of the bottoms of some of these little branches so they fit in there nicer. Like this one's been cut, and so has the lighter green. I just cut them just to the length that I wanted and then tuck them underneath that shadow die, and you can't even tell. So I did put both colors of green for a little bit of variety, and then I put these smaller branches in gold. So once they're all tucked in, I'm gonna take and move all my extra little branches aside, kind of try to clean up my work surface here a little bit. And I ended up bending the needle that goes in my Barely Arts glue right there, but thankfully they sell extras and I just put a new one in there. And I went and grabbed some red rhinestones. I have some in this honeybee packet here, and I grabbed the embellishment tray from Kat Scrappiness. I love it that it's big enough that I can really move embellishments around, especially in these assorted packs, and find exactly the sizes and what I'm looking for. So I grabbed 3 of the little red rhinestones. I'm using the Ranger multi-medium matte adhesive to glue those into place. Just pick those up with my embellishment wand, put a little bit of that glue underneath it, and put those back down. So when I go to funnel this back in with this little tray, the large sequins are too big to go through that little hole. That's fine, because you will see I just use the corner and they all still go back in, and I get none of them on my work surface whatsoever. So this tray works for any size of embellishments. So I carefully put some liquid adhesive on the back of this panel. Those rhinestones are not set, so I'm being very gentle. And then after I glued it directly to the panel, I got to thinking I should have popped it up with a panel of fun foam, but it still looks beautiful this way, but I think the fun foam would have really made it extra special. So Since I have liquid adhesive, I can move it around, get it exactly in the middle of that card base. And this here is my second card. I love the shine that we created with this stencil. And I love the foliage from the wreath to the foliage set. I think they really make these special holiday thank you cards. They turned out exactly the way I wanted them to. So here's this one. And these are the two cards I made today. I hope this inspires you to make some holiday thank you cards for the gifts you received. Thank you so much for stopping by, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.